Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
And I thought I knew it all until I started reading Past the Wire. You should read it too.
There's only one reason and one reason only to not get a ticket and a reservation for the Past the Wire annual Breeders' Cup seminar brought to you by Shorebed Coffee and Game of Silks. You gotta hate money. It's the only reason.
Paulie Tow Truck, Brooklyn, New York. I know John, PastTheWire.com, about 40 years now, and I can tell you something, nobody better than this man. After all, they call him the Pick 6 King, PK6, not because he was Walmart's best shopper of the month, you know what I'm saying? Subscribe, the Breeders' Cup's coming up. PastTheWire.com, don't show up unarmed.
Most profitable Breeders' Cup ever with Past the Wire. Sign up now for the annual Breeders' Cup seminar. All the angles, winning insights, betting strategy, and more. The best Breeders' Cup seminar on the planet, only from Past the Wire. With a proven track record of success, nobody does it better. Reserve your spot today at PastTheWire.com. Everyone begins in horse racing with exactly the same thing. A dream. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. That dream is what unites us.
Running the race of her life, and she's up to take the lead.
But what truly sets us apart is choosing to make that dream a thrilling reality.
And Spiced Perfection wins the Grade 1 La Brea.
At Dare to Dream Stable, we've been on a relentless mission to breathe life into those dreams for our partners for over 20 years.
Here's the Wire Mooncat.
Our track record speaks for itself. We've excelled at turning dreams into reality at the most reasonable price points in the industry.
In the winner's circle is Dare to Dream Stable, LLC.
So the question is, do you dare to dream? Join us in racehorse ownership today.
Now, if by chance you're heading out to the Breeders' Cup or you're looking to relocate to the beautiful Southern California, Los Angeles area, look up Juliet Kakish. I'm terrible with names, so I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Juliet Kakish Realty. She's out in the Los Angeles area. Breeders' Cup rentals, beautiful houses for sale. You want a view with a Hollywood sign, Hollywood Hills, Neighbors of the Stars. Check her out. You could find her at Juliet_Realty on Instagram or Juliet Kakish Realty. If you're looking for a Breeders' Cup spot or to relocate or maybe upgrade or downsize in Southern California, now you've got a contact. Tell her Past the Wire sent you.
To and through the 2023 Breeders' Cup World Championships, exclusive interviews, barn tours, winning insights, and more. Join Past the Wire all week long on the backside and at the rail from Santa Anita. Past the Wire at the Breeders' Cup World Championships is presented by Amwager and Dare to Dream Stable. Tracking Trips with Pick 6 King Jon Stettin. It's one of the best tools in horse racing for any level of player. It's your second set of eyes, spotting troubled trips, betting angles, track trends, horses to watch and favorites to fade, 10 figs, ticket structure, and more. At Tracking Trips, you're a friend with benefits. Not a member? You must hate winning money. Join Tracking Trips now. Visit pastthewire.com and we'll see you in the winner's circle. Remember, nobody does it better.
Frankie Dettori. Ciao, Frankie. Tutto a posto.
Tutto a posto. Yes, that's a good start. So you haven't lost your Italian.
Frankie Dettori, legend, world-class jockey, one of the best ever to sit in the saddle, ambassador to the sport of kings. Meet Frankie during his fanfare like never before, only on Past the Wire TV.
Classic. Vino Rosso has taken the lead, and it's a vintage performance by Vino Rosso.
Hi everybody, Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING, get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Hello friends, Cheeto DePazio here, Mob King. Anytime I'm wanting to know any information about the sport of kings, horse racing, I look to my man Jonathan Stettin at PastTheWire.com. And if you're looking to bet, like I always am, no better source than Jonathan. They don't call him the Pick 6 King for nothing. So why don't you do what I do with anything that pertains to horse racing? PastTheWire.com. Tell him Cheeto DePazio sent you.
Why? It makes no sense. It just makes no sense not to attend the annual Past the Wire Breeders' Cup seminar. No sense, unless you hate money. Just check it out. Ask the people who have attended the past seminars. Look at the track record. Look at the testimonials. Watch the videos. See you there. No excuse. Don't show up unarmed.
It is here, the big day, the day almost all of us in horse racing wait for, Breeders' Cup Saturday. It looks like we're going to see some really, really impressive races on Saturday. It starts with the filly and mare sprint. One of my stronger opinions on the card is Goodnight Olive to start things off. I think she gets a perfect trip.
Goodnight Olive, 6 in a row and a Breeders' Cup champion.
We've got Modern Games going in the Turf Mile for Godolphin. The Godolphin and Aidan O'Brien horses we said on Past the Wire TV all week long on the backside. Those two contingents stuck out from all the rest. Modern Games looking for a big race from him.
Modern Games storming down the center of the course. Modern Games, a two-time Breeders' Cup winner. You bet he is.
That is Rebels Romance, who in my humble opinion is one of Godolphin's better chances this year.
Rebels Romance is a very, very good-looking Godolphin horse that can absolutely win this race. Rebels Romance is a must-use.
Rebels Romance rolling on the outside. Warlock got it. Makes her bid down toward the inside. Rebels Romance down the center of the course. Has it close to home. Rebels Romance wins the turf over Stoney.
We got Flightline that they're putting in the best ever category. There's no question that the race he ran in the Pacific Classic is one of the best races we've seen any racehorse run ever.
It is Flightline. It is spine-tingling, jaw-dropping, awe-inspiring, Secretariat-like.
Now, probably to me, the most intriguing horse in the race, Arabian Night, who I thought was probably one of the best 3-year-olds early in the year.
Feel for the $1 million FanDuel Pacific Classic sent on their way. On the inside, Go Rocket Ride broke beautifully and goes straight to the lead. Being joined now by Arabian Night. 2 favorites, 1-2 in the early going.
Arabian Night is the last, and maybe mirror on the wall. Who's the fastest one of all? At the end of the day, it just might be Arabian Night if he goes forward as much as I think he can off that 1 3/4.
It's Arabian Night hanging on. Go Rocket Ride. Arabian Night has won the Pacific Classic.
I land on the bottom horse, Bright Future, for Todd Pletcher.
As the field turns for home, Bright Future is up to take the lead.
1 for 1 at Saratoga. You all know how much I like that, and we all know that all meet long, the horses that went over the track, the horses that like the track.
Bright Future digging in. Proxy's trying to get him. Bright Future or Proxy. Bright Future, Proxy. Here's the line. Photo finish. Bright Future.
Very interesting in Detroit, in my opinion. This is a horse that always showed a lot of potential. Exploded second time out, win by 4.
Here comes Cogburn, and Cogburn has his sights on Nobles in the final 16th of a mile.
There's a lot of turf in this pedigree, top and bottom.
It will be Cogburn on the outside, getting to the front.
The other thing that I like about Cogburn a lot is when I look at his Thoroughgraph numbers. He's got some fast races. He's got a 1.
And Cogburn under Ricardo Santana Jr. wins the Troy.
I love in these 3-year-old races. Again, those of you that watch the show and have been reading, you know my columns and a lot of my handicapper things over the years know I like up and comers. I like betting horses to do things that you know maybe we can anticipate that some others can't, and that's how you sometimes beat a lot of favorites. I like program trading.
And program trading, resilient coming back on the inside. Program trading would not be denied.
White Barrio is very interesting to me for a couple of reasons. We heard from Blake, we know what the Bond thinks, okay? Second time Rick Dutrow. This time gets the jump from the catbird seat and turn it for home. White Barrio was going to be in the race, if not on the lead, in the race, and the one they got to go get.
They're at the top of the stretch in the Whitney, and White Barrio is the leader narrowly over Giant Game.
We've had Irad breezing him a bunch at Belmont before he came up here. I know Irad really likes him. You know, we think that he should improve off of his last race. And, you know, if he gets a clean trip, we're expecting him to run big.
Look at White Barrio and Arad Ortiz Jr. in a runaway. White Barrio wins by almost 6 lengths.
We are ready. We are here. We've got Ed DeRosa, Horse Racing Nation. We've got Dan Cronin, Fat Bald Guy Racing, Keeneland Dan. We got me, Jon Stettin, Past the Wire. It's never too early to talk Breeders' Cup Classic. We talked earlier about the Kentucky Derby. We had some fun. We talked about a couple of other races, but we're here to talk about the Breeders' Cup Classic, which is about 3 weeks away. In my opinion, I don't know if you guys will agree, it's a very exciting Breeders' Cup Classic. I'd like to start with an interesting, or at least I think interesting observation that I have found, and I rely on Ed to kind of stat me right in these ways, because he's the statistician of the group for sure. But it seems to me, Ed, that after Arabian Night won the Pacific Classic, Baffert said he was going in fresh, not going to run in the Awesome again. Rick Dutrow, White Barrio won the Whitney. He said, you know what? I ain't prepping. I'm heading out. I'm packing my bags, heading out west. He's been out west before anybody else. The Travers a couple of weeks later, Jenna Antonucci wins with Arcangelo. A week or so ago, 2 weeks, whatever it was, she got out. Seems to me a lot of horses are going into the Classic this year fresh as opposed to years past. So do we have a little trend of that this year? Do you, am I on target on that? Because
I think that the volume of the number of horses who are coming in this fresh is definitely beyond what I remember. And I am going to run the numbers once we lose a few of these horses. I have 18 right now possible. So once we get down to what we know the field will be, I'll look. But, you know, an Invasor back in, what was that, 06? He hadn't run since the Whitney, so there's some precedence that far back. Of course, Flightline just last year came out of the Pacific Classic. American Pharaoh, when he hit the Grand Slam, was the Travers. So these superstar type horses have done it. But
Go Rocket Ride, another one. Go Rocket Ride didn't win the Pacific Classic. He's another one this side.
Yeah, well, and Bright Future hasn't run since the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So I think we've seen that, you know, these huge name horses have done it. This is a year where basically half the field, if not more, is going to be off since the Pacific Classic or earlier. So it's a new challenge for sure. And the other thing I would add that's fresh for the Classic this year, and the turf to a lesser extent, it's in the middle of the card. So all these years where the pick 5, pick 4, pick 3 have all ended on the Classic, now you're going to have 3 pick 3s, probably 2 pick 4s, 2 pick 5s. The pick 6 is going to be in the middle. To me, that's a huge difference in how to approach this Breeders' Cup. And I know a lot of people say, why are you handicapping a race 3 weeks out? Well, that's my answer. That's why. I want to be armed and ready to tackle all these multi-race wagers going through the Classic this year. And this video, to me, is the starting point.
And why are they doing that? Anybody know why they would do this?
I would think TV. Yeah,
TV.
I would think TV. I voiced some displeasure with that, and disappointment in that. I like the Classic being the last race, and all the feedback I got was negative. It was like, oh, what's the difference? What's the difference? Well, to me, there is a difference, and I
agree with you, Jonathan.
But I'll tell you this.
I don't mind what the Derby does. If they want to put 2 allowance races behind it,
right,
or a maiden race, so the traffic can clear. I get that.
And out in California with, the time change, they have time to run races after and have run like the Oak Tree Derby, stuff like that. Totally get it. But
I think at Keeneland,
not ending on the Classic.
Didn't at Keeneland they do it last year? At Keeneland, I think they ran a race or 2. Well, I think Wakanawa won a race after the Breeders' Cup.
And
it might have been on Friday. It might not have been Saturday. It might have been I'm not sure.
I think we all agree the Breeders' Cup races, it should be the last Breeders' Cup race, period.
Yeah.
There's no reason to not be the last.
Now, before we get to the horses, my biggest takeaway from this trend, okay, and this always plays an important factor to me, to the way that I handicap, but I think with this trend of so many coming in fresh, okay, and a lot of 3-year-olds as well, it seems to me, more than a lot of other years in prime contending positions, I think a lot is going to depend on trainer. I think the trainers, certain trainers are better than others fresh. you know? And I don't think there's a way around that. I think if you dismiss that in your handicapping analysis, you could be making a big mistake. That might not have bit you certain other years when they're all coming in, you know, off a more recent prep. I think you'll separate some of the talent levels.
I was thinking the biggest winners with all these layoff horses are the clockers, because they're going to have everyone listening to them about who looks good, and it does matter. I mean, we all have people we probably trust more than others, and to me, you would expect these grade 1 animals, some in horse of the year contention, to look good. I would say most of them are, but percentage wise, one of them has to be dull. I mean, they're not all going to come in gangbusters. But
nobody's going to say that, though. No, none of them ever say it.
But that's the difference.
That's why you got to find someone you trust.
The difference, too, guys, though, you can trust your own eyes now, because XBTV will have every single workout, just like we've been blessed with here in Kentucky with the new thing Bruno's doing with Churchill. It is unbelievable how much better your handicapping should be if you're watching those videos. And you can watch XBTV, which every one of them. And if you think one of them don't look right, that's when you start calling the people you trust and say, hey, am I seeing this right? This horse don't look right. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a scratch or two that'll get announced here soon from what I hear.
Well, I'll tell you this, if I could make a bet, and you guys know I'm not an advanced bettor. Okay, I don't even advance bet the Derby. I did bet the Jaguars to win the Super Bowl this year.
Well, that's a little different.
Right, a little different, just because I got 26-1, and I figured they were a lot to win the division. So, you know, probably get a home playoff game. It's like the second season, the playoffs. You know, I thought Trevor Lawrence in his second year with Doug Peterson would come alive, and whatever. I thought it was a nice bet at 26-1. And we'll see what happens with, you know, I should at least get to the playoffs, so it'll be fun. But if I could bet the Breeders' Cup this year and find a book that would take this bet, this is the bet I would make. Forte, not negate.
I was just going to say, can we bet on Forte not running? I'll take 1 to 5 if you want to give it to me. He's not going to be in the Classic.
I don't think he's going to run myself.
I'll be surprised if we don't know by the end of next week.
What do you think, Ed? You think he's running?
No. I mean, he's just out of time.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so
he is training at Churchill, though. He is on the track. So that at least gives me some hope we'll see him again, but it won't be at the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I would rather see him run in the Classic, because I would probably be betting against him, and he would probably make his share of money. But I don't think he runs. But let's talk about the ones we think are running.
Let's go.
Arcangelo coming in off Travers, going to be the favorite.
Should be.
We should say, talking about trainers, Jenna Antonucci has done a phenomenal job with this horse, going from the Belmont to the Travers fresh, now trying the Classic fresh. But I would have to say she's somebody that's in uncharted waters.
Well, I agree with that, but the horse, I think she's got the best horse. I really do, and I think the pace is going to be perfect for her if Saudi Crown and Arabian Night both go. If they're both,
you know, it ain't a beauty contest, but I will say this: in the recent pictures that I've seen of Arcangelo on the racetrack, and even playing around in the pen and stuff, I mean, he does have that beast look to him. I mean, he really does.
And looking at, here's the last 5 winners of the Breeders' Cup Classic at St. Anita. Fort Larned went wire to wire. Mucho Macho Man sat 4th and win. Byron went wire to wire, and you know, we all know he knocked over half the field. Arrogate broke initially 5th, was 3rd by the turn, sat 3rd, and nailed Chrome on the wire. Vino Rosso, who normally used to be a way back closer, sat 4th. So to me, you better be able to sit 1, 2, 3, 4 in that first flight and not get too far back. And history's telling me that my eyes are right. I think Arcangelo is going to sit right where Vino did, right where Arrogant did, right where Mucho Macho Man did. And I think he's going to have every chance to win. Now, is he good enough? Maybe it'll be a blanket finish. I don't know, but I think Arcangelo is clearly the favorite and the one to beat.
What's your thoughts on him, Ed?
Yeah, he's the favorite. I think he'll be underlaid. I'm just nervous about how much money he'll take. And I mean, you mentioned Jenna, and I'm going to be honest, I'll take my medicine. Part of the reason I was against this horse in the Travers is, she's a X% trainer lifetime and has this amazing horse now. And I just thought, oh, is she really going to beat Pletcher at the getting him ready off a layoff game? And my thought was no, and I was wrong. And that's less in play for me now. I mean, she still has to get this one ready for a much stiffer test against older horses, but she showed she could do it once, so that's off the board. I was wrong about that, but I'm just really nervous about how much money this horse will take. In my mind, he's the only horse of the year candidate in the race that if he wins, he's horse of the year no matter what else happens. That's going to get attention. Obviously, her story gets attention, and attention means money. So I know that the horse can beat me again for the third straight time, but I just think the price is going to be too short.
Interesting. I'm more in Ed's camp than Dan's camp on this.
Well, I didn't say I was betting him.
I get it, but
I just said he's the horse to beat.
You guys like him and think
I agree with that. The price will be
you guys like him and think he's the horse to beat.
I know going in, I'm going to be against, though. There's just no price this horse could possibly be that I'd be interested in.
Well, like I said, I'm in the camp of not betting him but for different reasons. And this is one of those things, and I ain't bashful, so I'll just come out and say it. I don't think he's got a chance to win the race.
Wow.
I mean, that's an opportunity for you for sure.
I don't think he got a chance to win the race. If it was the last race of the pick six, okay, and there's a dozen horses in the race, and you told me, John, you're alive, you could have any six you want to close out the pick six, he wouldn't be one of them.
Oh my Lord. Not in the top six?
I don't think he can win the race.
Wow.
I
only think there's four.
Throwing down the gauntlet. I like it.
I could listen, I'm in the same boat as you. I didn't think he could win the Travers, and he humbled me. You know what I mean? So
none of us like
he may do it to me again. He won't be the first nor the last horse to humble me, but
you'll know when they open the gate.
I play the cards that I see on my hand. You know what I mean? And I don't think you can win.
So why?
What's
the reason?
Couple of reasons. Okay. I think the Belmont that he won was a staggering finish race. Okay. I think
that's dressed up.
I think it looked a lot better than it truly was. They came home awfully slow. I think in the Travers, a couple of horses didn't fire.
Age didn't fire.
Right. They just didn't fire. I think Forte is overrated.
Fair.
I think it's another race that I just think looks better than it was. And when I combine those two things with taking a trainer that's never had a horse like this before and never brought a horse fresh like that, it's a big ask. Okay. And I don't mean to disrespect her because she's done a marvelous job, but we're talking about betting. And, I would
2-1 in a 14-horse field.
I think that there's a good chance that no matter how good Arcangelo is, there's a possibility he runs out of trainer at the 3/16 pole or at the 8th pole. You know what I mean? Because it's tough.
Well,
it's tough to get a horse to win like that. And if she does, I salute Jenna. Great job. You know what I mean? Phenomenal. You fooled me, and you deserve all the accolades for doing it. But I would also say this, John.
if the race was at Churchill or Belmont, I would say he's got a better chance. Shipping to California is a different ball game.
Well, she was smart. She went out there early. She's been smart. She's made every right move. She's out there.
Mandela and Baffert on their track, speed favoring track. So I agree with, I mean, for people that don't want to play a favorite, I would not tell you you're nuts not taking him. I mean, you got to try to beat favorites on Breeders' Cup Day, and there's going to be a bunch of them.
Okay. But that's really what it comes down to, you know, for me. So, you know, if you ask me who I'm going to bet, I couldn't answer that question right now. We're 3 weeks out.
I think I'm down to 2 for sure.
If you ask me who I'm not going to bet, I could tell you, you know, Arcangelo's not on my shoulders.
Who's next?
Go Rocket Ride. Improving 3-year-old Richard Mandela. We know that he is one of the best at pointing for a race, at getting one ready to fire a huge shot. The horse missed some time, you know, ran to Haskell, come back, you know, to the Pacific Classic, I think was a really good race. I mean, he's an improving 3-year-old. It's hard to find any major knock on him, except the fact that Arabian Night beat him last time, but you know, that was then, this is now. What are you guys' feelings on him?
I like him. That's one of the top 3 horses in the race, I think. I mean, it's Mandela on his home, at his house. I mean, you're coming into his house. The horse has the perfect style to win. He's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the gate. And, you know, I really believe this classic's going to be one of those, just like Mucho Macho Man's was, just like Byron's was, when it's a 3-horse photo, you know, they're all staggering to the wire together. And I think he's going to be in that photo. I really do. I think you have to use him if you're betting pick 4s and 5s. You have to.
As of right now, I'm a little concerned about if Saudi Crown and Derma Sotogake are in this race, what that means for the Pacific Classic Exacta. To me, both of them in here makes their jobs much more difficult. If neither goes, you know, Saudi Crown to the dirt mile or skips the Breeders' Cup altogether, Derma isn't ready. It's a super long layoff for him. Maybe doesn't even draw in. Who knows? Then obviously we could be looking at a scenario where, oh, how did I not have Mandela and Baffert going 1-2 all the way around? But as is now, if Saudi Crown and Derma are both in, I just think that ends up with a lot of pressure up front, and I'm going to be looking for horses who are further back.
Interesting.
Not me. I don't want anybody further back. If I don't think they're going to be 1, 2, 3,
you're playing that. You're playing that track, that historical track trend. I get it.
Yeah, and not even, I mean, Dan went through the 5 at Santa Anita, but even looking most recently, with Authentic, Knicks Go, and Flightline, which Flightline is an anomaly because he's one of the best we've ever seen, but certainly Authentic and Knicks Go, no cinches, but I mean, they just took the race to everyone else and made it look easy. So, I mean, the Classic certainly has that forward profile.
No doubt. Arabian Night, gritty win in the Pacific Classic. Really worked hard. I actually wasn't surprised when they said they were going to go in fresh off that hard race in the Pacific Classic. I mean, he really, you know, moved forward off the Haskell. What are your thoughts on him? I mean, we know that's a race that Bob Baffert certainly knows how to win, especially at that racetrack, you know?
He's similar for me to Go Rocket Ride, you know, pending on who else is in there. I will add, though, with Arabian Night, because in particular with Baffert, who takes so much money, it sticks out with this colt. His Ragozin numbers are not the best of this group, not even close, as a matter of fact. So personally, for me, is a big numbers guy, knowing that he's going to be what, 3rd, 4th, 5th choice. I mean, some moving parts still on that, but I'm not sure, given his numbers and how reliant I am on them, that I could back him at the price he's going to be. I hope he sticks around for a 4-year-old year, though, because I definitely see the profile, him and Go Rocket Ride, where they improve at 4. And that makes them both very exciting. But as 3-year-olds against older, I'm just not sure the number power is there.
I agree that both have that look that they're going to be really, really good 4-year-olds. I mean, they're lightly raced 3-year-olds that are improving at the time of year that you want to see. And I think Arabian Night, for me, a lot of it's going to come down to pace and whether or not we see horses like Saudi Crown and Dermisota Kake in the race, and how the pace shapes up. You know, it's going to be a big factor whether those two are in or not, in how this race, you know, plays out. White Barrio, the next one, off a long layoff, he run, you know, in the Whitney, probably well, no question, the best race that he's ever run, in his second start for Rick Dutrow. And Rick was the first one to pack up and head out west right after that. And he's been out there with this horse, you know, a week after the Whitney. He's another guy who knows how to win a classic. Hasn't done it in a while. That's really, you know, no fault of his own, or, you know, due more to circumstances. He hasn't been around for a while, but I think he's already shown he hadn't forgotten anything that he knew. This is a horse that will benefit from pace, you know, and is coming off a lifetime best, and is coming off a lifetime best second start for a new barn, and no knocks in my book, none, 0. The only knock might be Dan's, is that he probably won't be sitting in that, quote, you know, winner's profile pocket. You know, he'll be a little further back than that if the pace is as it looks like it might be on paper right now, especially if those other horses go. But taking that factor out of the equation, he will be in a spot where just on a regular pace projection, you know, might work to his advantage.
Yeah, he's not one of the 4 that I like. Now, Arabian Night is in the 4 I think can win. Arabian Nights, the whole thing with Arabian Night is, like you said, is Saudi Crown or Dermot, are they actually going to run? Because if they all 3 run, then obviously he's going to have a rougher time, and maybe I'll flip to White Barrio then as my 3rd or 4th horse. But right now, I don't like any of the 4-year-olds. I think the 3-year-olds are better. So maybe I'll be wrong on that, but I think it's a lot like, if you remember back when Curlin and Street Sense ran at Monmouth, and Lawyer Ron was the talk of the country for the older horses and didn't get a call. Now, of course, it was in the slop, and who knows if he'd have got a call in a fast track. But I think White Barrio, he's not going to be in his comfort zone. He wants to be close. When he broke, you know, second in the Whitney, I was like, oh boy, he's going to win from here. I bet on him in the Met Mile. I bet on him at 20-1, and he got a rough trip that day. So, you know, I'm torn on him. I just don't think he's going to go to California and beat those California horses. And I'm usually against California horses, but the Mandela and the Baffert are pretty good, and I don't know if he'll be able to beat them.
Well, I love him. I think right now I'd say my most likely winner. The Whitney to me was the best race we've seen this year. And I know Cody's Wish didn't run his race, but I mean, he beat the best, what many thought was the best horse in training at the time, and made it look easy. And it occurred after, you know, the unfortunate circumstances in the test. And I think that, you know, cast a pall over the performance, and understandably so. But that was an eye-opener to me. And Rick Dutrow, I know for sure, is a Sheets devotee. And he probably just looked at this eye-popping number, second in his barn, and just saw no path to run him again, fearing the bounce, and then fearing, okay, well, if I run him in a race like the Woodward, give him some time, if he runs super strong there, now I'm in a spot where I have to wheel back in the Breeders' Cup. So he just decided, well, we'll see if we can replicate it off the long layoff. And based on the content I've put out and the feedback, with him being my most likely winner, he's going to be, I mean, fourth choice at an absolute minimum, and probably longer than that. So maybe he doesn't win, maybe it's too long of a layoff, but I'm going to get the right price for absolute certain, and I'm gambling that he replicates the Whitney, and if he does, he wins this race.
If he runs back to the Whitney, the race is for second.
But how can he? He's not going to break second.
Well, then
they're not going to go 48-1.
I'll definitely be less bullish if the pace considerations. I mean, right now, my opinion is based on Saudi Crown and Derma Sotogake being in this race.
Right.
And that definitely changes things.
I'm not so sure about Derma Sotogake. I only know what I've read and what I've heard, but following the game and handicapping the moves of trainers, I would tend to think pretty strongly that Brad is going to run Saudi Crown in the Classic.
I don't know why he wouldn't.
He's not really a duck anybody kind of guy. He's got a fast horse that's doing well. He's going to take his shot on the front end. He knows it's a speed track.
He wins, he gets a championship.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, I see him going for it,
If you're the #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, are you going to go to the tournament or go to the NIT?
Right.
I mean, why on earth would you run in the dirt mile? Who cares? Who even won it last year? Who cares?
Cody's
I don't
wish.
care.
Cody's
I think
wish.
the race should be eliminated.
No, but I'm with, yeah, it's
right.
Why even? I mean, I don't even think it's a decision. I like Saudi Crown. He's my top pick. I mean,
yeah, all right. There we go. All right.
A monster chance to go wire to wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if he's in there,
He's fresh too. He's another one fresh. He's run once since July.
Right. Another one.
I mean, I'm nervous if Arabian's in there with him.
Right.
Sure.
We'll see at post time if they're both in there. And like Ed said with White Abario, I mean, Saudi Crown, don't he have to be 6 or 8 to 1? I mean, they can't all be 3 to 1.
Oh, he'll be 6 or 8 to 1. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, the price again, you got Brad Cox. The price is right. He's got every. I mean, I still distinctly remember Twitter had just started back then, sending a message to Brian Hernandez on Fort Larned and saying, "I just want to know if you're going to go to the lead. Please tell me you're going to the lead." And he actually sent back. He said, "I will be on the lead." This was the day before the Classic. I couldn't believe he answered me. I was in shock. And right then sold me. Like I said, Dad, whoever makes the lead is going wire to wire. And Hernandez just told me he's going to the lead. I'm taking him. I'm betting on him. And nobody thought Fort Larned could win that race out in California. I mean, and he wired him.
I certainly didn't. So
this horse can wire.
I forget who I like, but it wasn't him.
Yeah, me too. But it wasn't him.
I mean, Saudi Crown can't be lower than 5th choice in my mind. Arcangelo is going to be favored. The 2 California horses will be in there, and Usha Tasso, the Japanese horse, is going to be a top 4 choice. So that leaves Saudi Crown and White Abario 5th or 6th.
Which that's the perfect pick 4 and pick 5 horses.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's where you want to be.
Moving right along. Okay, we eliminated a lot of horses we're going to talk about a little bit. Zandon finally put it together against what I thought was a field he just completely outclassed last time. I remember my comment to myself before the race was, if he don't win today, he's just not half the horse that I thought he was at some point. And he actually wasn't getting a good trip. And I thought, look at this, he may not win. And then when he got to the outside, class showed and he just, ran past them. Could he possibly be, just throwing it out there, possibly be one of those, excuse that reference, like a light bulb horse, like the light bulb went off and now, he's put it all together at the right time, or he's just not as good as the rest of these?
Yeah, I see it as more not ready for prime time. I do think, and this kind of Blazing 7 style with Chad Brown, who just his horses fire when he points for a race. Not that he's alone in that, but Chad, you can trust him that the horse is going to be ready. And I think that's the case here. So if we're talking about 20-1 plus, which is certainly possible, which sounds insane because a lot of people have liked this horse through the years, but like Dan said, there's 14 horses in here. We know Arcangelo is going to be favored. They can all be less than 10-1. To me, he's one that, hey, do you key him underneath because he's going to be picking up pieces? I could definitely see that approach. A win would truly surprise me.
Yeah,
I agree with that, but I will say this: if Pratt winds up on him, which I don't know, we know where Pratt is going to be for sure as of right now, but if Pratt winds up on him for Chad and he's 20-1 in the Classic, okay, or 25-1 in the Classic, and Saudi Crown and Dermisota Kake are in there with Arabian Night, and the other speed that's in there, and it looks like there is some other speed, and he crosses the wire first and runs past a pace collapsing race late and pays $50-something. It'll be one of those. Look at this: Flavian Pratt and Chad Brown at $50-something in the Breeders' Cup Classic in a race loaded with speed.
I mean, they almost pulled it off. Was it last year? I can't remember. They all run together. He had a filly in the dispatch.
Don't mention that race. That cost me.
Dunbar Road.
Don't mention that. No, we don't talk about that. We don't talk.
Zandon is going to hit the board.
We don't talk about.
He's hit the board 12 or 13 races. He's going to hit the board.
The worst part about Dunbar Road was, okay, I was alive for a lot of money, okay, a lot of money. And I watched the race up in the restaurant on the 4th floor at Del Mar, okay? I was there at the Breeders' Cup. And for whatever reason, no knock on Del Mar, they still got those old low-definition TVs angled up above the tables in that 4th floor restaurant that, I don't know, if my glasses were like 4 inches thick, maybe I could have seen something. And I was so high up that looking down at the track, I couldn't see nothing. So I knew I was in the photo, but I didn't know if I won. So I call my friend in Brooklyn who's watching on NBC and figure he's got to know. Now, everybody in the room where I'm at is calling Dunbar Road, okay? But I know if I don't know, they possibly can't. They don't know either, you know what I mean? And it means a lot more money to me than 99.9% of these people. So I call my friend and he's like, you got it. She got up. She won. I'm like, are you sure? He goes, I'm telling you, she won. She got it. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you. And the worst part of that beat, and you guys can relate, and hopefully some of the listeners can relate because we're horse players. I felt the thrill of the victory. I felt the win because I believed in my friend and what he said watching on NBC. And then when they put that number up, and all that money just went right out of my account, even though it was never there. It was one of the worst racetrack experiences of my entire life.
We could do like a 10-hour show on bad beats.
The gut punch.
Right. So getting back to
road punch. Worst. Road punch. Road punch.
I mean, Zandon, most of you guys know, I bet on him in December and November out in Vegas. Right. I was getting, I can't remember, it was like 88-1 or 85-1 on Zandon. I was getting 40,000 if he won the Derby. So who didn't think he was going to win in the middle of the lane? I mean, when he came out around the epicenter, I was like, I got it. Oh my God, I got it. I actually bet on a horse in December that's going to win the Derby. So for that split second.
No, I bet him too. So I
mean, and he's been a hanging, you know what, since.
Yeah.
Until the last race. But I can't knock anybody that takes this horse because if the pace melts down, maybe he comes running and he's probably going to run third. He's probably going to run third or maybe even fourth, but he's going to come. I just don't know if he's good enough, if those other horses will be gone on him. But I can't knock it at that price. Can't tell anybody not to take him.
I think the only thing I said the entire rest of that day after that Dunbar Road race was 3 words. No matter what anybody said to me. Somebody said to me, who do you like in the next race? What's the difference? Where you going to dinner tonight? What's the difference? When you're heading back home? What's the difference? I think that's all I said for the rest of the day, man.
Yeah.
It was a tough one, man. It
We
was
get our revenge.
Bright future. Anybody? Any takers?
I think the horse is going to be overlaid. Just not getting any respect. Has the mile and a quarter win, Fletcher, and from a form standpoint, coming into it the right way. Maybe 10 years ago we'd say otherwise because of the longer layoff, but that's just not in play anymore. Just one of those horses like I wouldn't love if for whatever reason people were steamed on it and it was a low price, but this is a horse coming off a grade 1 and a better one than the Woodward, I would say, who's going to be 15 to 1. So in the mix for me, very much so. I definitely prefer White Abarrio, but this horse just is not getting the respect I think he deserves, and that means it's an opportunity.
Okay. You got any thoughts on him, Dan? Your face. Good thing we're not playing poker because we already know you.
I mean, it's the right profile. I'll give him that. He's going to be forward. I don't think he's good enough. But again, if he's 15 or 20 to 1 and you're betting a pick 4 or 5 and you're spreading out, I mean, I wouldn't knock anybody to put him on their ticket. But
yeah, I mean, back to what Jonathan sort of led with. I mean, if I'd much rather take my chances and be live to this horse in a pick 4 for $5,000 and have Arcangelo for 700.
Right. Yeah, I could see that.
I could co-sign that for sure. Now Ushba Tesoro. I hope I said that correctly. No disrespect meant. Ushba Tesoro. Almost sounds like it could be Italian. Ushba Tesoro. Yeah. Ushba Tesoro. Ed, tell us a little bit about this Japanese horse, because I don't know a heck of a lot about it.
I mean, for those who have watched, whether it's our Derby or any Derby through the years, may know that I cannot stand the horses that ship from Dubai to the Derby. And in the last few years, it's been Japanese-based horses who have done it. I've been dead against, zero interest whatsoever. I'd use all and take them off. But this is different. Obviously, it's the Breeders' Cup, but they've shipped into Santa Anita and won before. So, there's all that. But this horse, if you look at his PPs back into 2022, similar profile. They gave him the summer off last year as well as they did this year after the Dubai World Cup. And if we were talking about a horse who did not have a prep, and granted the prep was in a regular handicap, not an A circuit track in Japan. So it was literally, they just wanted to get a race into him. I'd be less inclined to play him off that kind of layoff from April. But the Dubai World Cup, I thought was a strong enough race. And to me, as always, it's going to come down to price. But given what we've seen from the 3-year-old and older division this year, a wild card makes some sense. If he's second choice, that's probably going to be too low for me. But if we're talking any better than that, odds-wise, he's in the mix. I'm excited to potentially bet this horse.
Interesting. You know anything about him, Dan? You?
No, I don't know much. I mean, there wasn't much in the World Cup, I didn't think. But again, if he's 15 or 20 to 1,
no, he won't be that.
If he's 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 7, I'm not putting him on any tickets. But it's one of those. If I've got the best trainers in America on my ticket, the best California trainers, the best New York trainer, and I lose. And I mean, if I got Cox, Brown, Mandela, Baffert, and I lose at the end of a pick 4 or 5, then I just lose. I mean, if he beats me, he's going to beat me. I
think he'll be 8 to 1.
Distaff by a nose. I had a bunch of them in that distaff, and she beat me and knocked me out. So you can't take them all.
Yeah, I gotta say the jury for me is still out on this horse. I don't know enough about him yet. I have watched a couple of his replays.
I'll say this, if he wasn't 10 for 30, I might think different, but I just keep staring at that 10 for 30 thinking, well, how good is he? He's 10 for 30.
Right.
And if he was 10 for 12, then I'd be like, well, maybe he is some kind of stud.
Right.
Or maybe he's just not running against much, and so he's reeling off all these wins against older horses because there ain't any. I don't know.
Wasn't Cigar 1 for 8 when he started his win streak?
Just about something like that. Yeah, when they switched him to the dirt, and all of a sudden you decide, let's be a racehorse. Proxy. Kind of know what we're going to get with Proxy. He's been around a long time. I think we kind of know what his ceiling is, and I would be of the opinion that even his ceiling race or his A race is probably not good enough to beat some of these if they show up with their A races. What do you guys think?
Can't win.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you've seen me talk about this on X, formerly Twitter, but the retirement stallion announcement before the Breeders' Cup is a toss for me. So when they said he'd be retiring after the Classic, not that I loved him anyway. Sounds like I had a little more interest than Dan maybe, but I'm out.
Okay. Saudi Crown, Dan's top choice. If he goes, I think we can all agree he is probably the likely pace setter. Assuming he breaks well and gets out of the gate the way that he's supposed to over a track that's historically been a speed track. Brad Cox. I mean, they don't really get much hotter than Brad is. Speed's always dangerous. I mean, what else? What can you say? If he clears, he's the kind of horse that if he clears and he's got a length and a half, 2 lengths into that first turn, I don't really care what the fractions are, even if they're 22. Because a lot of times you see horses run them off their heels and these good horses don't come back even when they go fast. So if he clears and I don't have him, I'm going to be concerned.
Yeah, I'd be concerned too, but it's with all we've talked about on the reason I don't like the SoCal, if he's in, the same applies. So if all 4 of the horses I think want the leader in, I'm just going to have to let him beat me if he turns in a world-class performance.
One of the most frustrating things to me in watching races, and I'm a reluctant guy to criticize jockeys. I give them a lot of leeway. I will do it on occasion. I try to be respectful about it. But one of the most frustrating things to me as a horse player is when you see a race that has speed on paper, and we see it a lot on the grass, and one guy goes and he's got 2 lengths and they're going slow and nobody else goes. And you're like, why is nobody else going? What, I just don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't get it either, especially watching turf races where the leader goes in 115, which means the mid-pack horses are going 117. Like what?
Right.
Why?
What are you thinking? You know what I mean? If we know you're not going to win, you're a professional rider. You should probably know you're not going to win from sitting there,
Right.
Very frustrating. And I fear the scenario of Saudi Crown loose. Even though my mind and my analytical handicapping tells me there's other pace and they should be taking shots at him. And nobody should let him,
Let me ask you guys both this. Do you think he can get to the half, a length in front, and 46-1?
Oh, he'll be in front if it's 46-1.
Yes.
Because Bayern and Fort Larned both went 46-2 and both kept going.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm not as worried about the fractions as I am. I'd
rather. If it's 45, he's in trouble. But if he can get there in 46 and anything, look out.
If I don't have him, okay, and he's neck and neck on the lead, and they go 47 and change, and he's neck and neck, or there's 3 horses out there winging, I would be more comfortable catching him than if he's 46 flat by himself, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want him clear. Now I don't know if he can get there with Arabian Night. Well, that's the maybe, but we've seen it before. They open the gate, one of them gets smashed, the other one's gone.
He's no worse than 5th choice. So I mean, you're gonna get whatever price you want.
Okay. Forte. None of us think he's running, but he's on the list of probables.
Well,
if he does show up, anybody think he's got a chance?
No, impossible to win off this kind of preparation. And Todd is one of the best
track profile. He
can't happen.
Right. I tend to agree. Like I said, I'm looking for a book that'll give me him not being in the gate, and I can't find one.
No.
And I'm a pretty resourceful guy when it comes to wagering. So that tells you, that tells you that he's probably not going to be in the gate. Mage, they say they're still going. They love to work the other day. He's got to, turn it around off of no explanation that we know of, at least, flop of a race in the Travers. Any thoughts on Mage turning the tables, waking up?
It's shades of funny side to me in 03. Just went the wrong way in the middle of the season, and it's tough to get that back. Certainly hope he runs at 4, and with Airdrie being the final destination, I could see where they give him that shot. He debuted this year. He did not run it 2. Right. So it's been a unique season for him. He's lasted longer than Justify did after winning the Derby as an unraced 2-year-old. That Travers was really bad, and the layoff might help him get back to wherever he sort of needs to be. But even at a biggish price, I just don't like what we saw this summer.
No, I don't either. If I was them, I'd run him in the Clark. I'd
even wait for the Pegasus.
No for me.
I was just going to say I would run him into Pegasus over a track I know he's familiar with and freshen him up even more. Defunded. Also a horse that seems to have kind of gotten off form, the wrong way, or off tilt. But I will say this: in a race like the Classic or the Derby, a couple of others, Bob Baffert's just a scary guy to leave out. You know what I mean? He's just, he's fooled me a couple of times, and every time he does, I'm like, you know what? I ain't never letting him fool me again. But I do, because I don't bet that way. I don't see him. You know what I mean? I don't see him. I think he's just not coming into the race the right way, if he even shows up. I think it would be a vote of confidence for Arabian Night if he doesn't run Defunded.
If I was him, I'd put Defunded in the mile.
He might, but if he doesn't run into the Classic,
he has no chance in here.
Reading the tea leaves, I would say, you know what? Arabian Night's doing really, really well.
Got Arabian Night, stick him in the mile, and hope you steal both purses.
But Defunded, to me, just not coming in right. You guys, anybody?
I agree. His sheet looks like Dan's golf shot, straight and then. Whoop.
Okay. Well, don't worry, Dan. Your golf shot looks better than mine, so that's okay. Practical Move. Practical Move to me, on paper, what was he, 1-9 last time? He comes back off that layoff, and before the scratches, I looked at that race in the morning, and before the scratches, I said, he should win, but he's no cinch. After the scratches, I think there were 2 scratches. That kind of changed, and it looked like, he was going to win. But that, it was a very pretty race to watch. He looked like a very pretty racehorse. But at the end of the day, he did what he was supposed to do against much lesser. Is that enough based on what he did earlier in the year and off that race now to come up and step up and move back to the head of the 3-year-old class, let alone the entire class? I say no.
Yeah, I liked him in the spring, but Skinner certainly hasn't flattered him. And, given the one prep he's had, this seems like a tall order. The Malibu would make a lot more sense to me, or even the Clark if they wanted, to try older for a big purse, but this is too much.
I agree. I think he should be in the mile if he even runs in the Breeders' Cup, but I think this is just way too much. I mean, I think he's another one that's got a chance to be a really good 4-year-old. So just don't ruin him at the end of the year. And he's got the perfect setup to be a really, really good 4-year-old.
I agree. I think he's a really, really nice horse. I just don't think he's ready for this right now.
I agree. He's not. He would, if he ran in the Classic, he would not be on my ticket. If he
Yeah,
ran in the mile, yeah, he'd probably be on my ticket.
Now, Clapton. If Clapton wins, I'll be saying the same thing I said about Dunbar Road. What's the difference? Only for completely different reasons. But the only thing you'll hear me say after the race, if Clapton wins, anybody says anything to me, I'm like, what's the difference? Head scratcher if he wins for me.
Yeah, if he hit the Super, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, if the race just completely collapses, maybe somehow he gets fourth, but just the numbers aren't there.
But I'm glad for Chad Summers. I'm glad he's got a horse. I'm glad that he's doing better, and I'm glad he's heading to the Breeders' Cup. More power to him. If I was in his scenario, I'd go too.
Oh, yeah, I don't understand these people who are like to train or own other people's horses. I'd be in every grade 1 I could if I had a horse like that.
Right, why not?
And with no shame. I wouldn't feel any regret.
All right.
Assuming sound, of course.
Right, of course. Goes without saying. Senor Buscador. I will say this about Senor Buscador. He's got some very good, I know you mentioned the Ragazins. He's got some, his pattern is not what I would say I like to see, but he's got some very fast races on Thoroughgraph.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at his Ragazins, but he's got some races that are fast enough to win, bottom line.
He fits. I'd rather play him than Zanda, and he's going to be a bigger price and, going to have a similar trip. So.
Yeah, I could see putting him in the trifectas.
He would be my long shot. I don't know about the way I play tickets, but to me, depending on what else is around the Classic, the turf is the preceding race. I really like Warlike Goddess and will probably like a couple Euros. I could see tying them up with Senor Buscador, on a ticket that I'm looking for a blow up because I'm on the logicals elsewhere. He's not a throw up to me by any means.
Skippy Longstocking. Anybody? Any takers? Big price? No?
Out.
Yeah, he won't shock me. It's kind of a cliche at this point. There are others I like less for sure, but just to me, he's similar to Zandon in that we know what he does against the true grade 1 top level, and it's not win. So, but they're both going to be bigger prices, and on that tier of, gosh, if I'm right in every other race, can I catch lightning with Skippy? Maybe, but definitely not a key by any means.
Il Miracolo.
Well, John, I hate to cut you off. I got guys waving at me.
All right. Ed and I'll wrap it up. No worries.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. Il Miracolo is the least likely winner.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, you're out. I would tend to agree with that. Least likely. King of Steel, I think he's running on Saturday. I don't think we're going to see him in the Breeders' Cup. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I have him on my list just because he seems to be the one that Breeders' Cup is sort of said of all the Euros is most likely to show up, but
he's running
really hard to sort of.
He's running on Champions Day Saturday. I can't see him running there and then coming here.
Yeah.
And then last is Dermo Sotokake, who we kind of talked about, and if he runs, I think we can agree he impacts the race one way or another. I don't think he can win, but he certainly impacts the race.
Man, I don't want to say too bad because I actually like the horse, but with another Japanese horse in the race, that'll probably mitigate the money that would blindly come in on a Japanese horse like Dermasotogake. Between the layoff, what we saw in the Derby, it's really hard to like him for anything. So I do hope he takes whatever money he takes, but I just don't see how a horse with his style and this preparation can even be competitive in this race.
All right, and there you have it. We lost Dan, but we still got Ed and me and Ed. Horse Racing Nation, you can find a ton of Ed's opinions and content and analysis and stats, which I always love. At Horse Racing Nation, they have their website and their YouTube channel. Me, you know where to find Past the Wire TV and Past the Wire. We've got our seminar coming up. I'm doing the Breeders' Cup by the Thoroughgraph Numbers and Patterns,
Nice.
which people seem to like, where I kind of go over all the numbers and patterns and see who looks like they're going forward, who looks like they're.
That's the key. I mean, you find the right horse who maybe hasn't run races people think can win, but if they move forward, can even crash the exacta or try at a nice price with these 14 horse fields. That's huge.
Absolutely. Okay. Always a pleasure. I'll stop this now, Ed. We could say goodbye off camera. And thanks everybody for watching. And we appreciate you all. And best of luck at the Breeders' Cup. We will see you there. Does it better.